If you've ever looked at your child sleeping and felt guilty instead of peaceful, this is for you. If you've ever loved your kids so much it hurt and still gone to bed feeling like you ruined them, stay with me. Because the parents who worry they're failing are often the ones carrying more love, pressure, and pain than anyone can see. There is a quiet sentence living in millions of homes right now. It usually shows up after the shouting, after the slam door, after the school email, after the toddler meltdown in the supermarket, after the teenager says, "You don't get it," after the baby finally falls asleep and the house goes still. And the sentence is this: "I'm not doing this right. Not because you don't care, because you care so much that every hard moment feels like proof against you." That's what makes this so brutal. Good parents don't just want to raise a child, they want to protect a mind, build a future, prevent pain, spot every warning sign, regulate their own emotions, teach values, create memories, pay the bills, keep the fridge full, limit screen time, understand anxiety, watch for bullying, notice changes in mood, respond calmly, set boundaries, stay connected, keep the marriage alive, keep working, keep going, and somehow do all of that while looking emotionally balanced on the outside. Of course you're tired. Of course you feel stretched. Of course there are moments when you look around and think, how is everyone else handling this better than I am? But here's the part nobody says clearly enough. Modern parenting does not just ask you to raise children, it asks you to absorb the emotional impact of the entire world while pretending your family is fine. You are not parenting in a normal environment. You are parenting in an age of constant comparison, constant alerts, constant opinions, constant bad news, constant stimulation, constant guilt. You see curated families online, perfect lunchboxes, perfect bedrooms, perfect routines, perfect emotional language, perfect children saying the right thing in the right tone, with soft lighting in the background. And even when you know it's edited, your nervous system still reacts, because your brain does not compare your real life to their real life. It compares your worst private moment to their best public performance. That comparison is poison, and it lands hardest on the parents who are trying the hardest. That's why good parents so often feel like they're failing, not because they are failing, because they are measuring themselves inside a system built to make them feel behind. You can see it everywhere. A mother answering emails in the car before pickup, heart racing, already late, already guilty. A father lying awake at 2 a.m., replaying the moment he snapped over something small and seeing his own father in his voice. A parent sitting outside a teen's bedroom wondering if the silence means normal distance or something darker. A couple arguing about roles, not because they don't love each other, but because they're both terrified and calling it strategy. A parent making dinner with one hand, checking school updates with the other, while trying not to cry because the day never ended. This does not look like failure. It looks like overload. And overload lies to you. It tells you that the reason everything feels hard is because you were bad at this. But hard is not always a sign of wrong. Sometimes hard is a sign that the weight is real. Think about what today's parent is actually carrying. You are expected to be a provider and an emotional coach, a protector and a role model, a calendar manager and a mental health observer, a safe place and a firm boundary. You are meant to notice every shift in your child's behavior while hiding the fact that your own inner world may be running on fumes. And then there's social media. Not just your child's, yours too. Because now parenting is no longer something you mostly do in private. It has become something you are silently judged for in public all day long. What your kid wears, what they eat, how they speak, how they behave, how much screen time they get, whether they seem shy, whether they seem loud, whether they look too mature, whether they look too sheltered, whether they are doing enough, whether they are doing too much. It never ends, and if you have a teenager, the pressure gets even sharper, because now you're not just competing with outside opinion, you're competing with an algorithm. Your child is growing up in an environment engineered to hijack attention, trigger comparison, distort identity, and make ordinary life feel emotionally flat. A bad day at school used to end when the child came home. Now it follows them into their pocket, onto their pillow, into their self-worth. A social mistake can replay for hours. A group chat can turn cruel in seconds. A photo can become a referendum on beauty. A silence can feel like rejection. A low number on a post can feel like personal failure. And parents are expected to manage this landscape while learning it in real time. No generation before had to parent inside this kind of psychological weather, so when your child seems anxious, withdrawn, angry, obsessed with their phone, or emotionally exhausted, you start asking the question that hurts the most: did I do this? Maybe if I was calmer, maybe if I worked less, maybe if I noticed sooner, maybe if I got stricter, maybe if I got softer, maybe if I didn't hand them the device, maybe if I was more present, maybe if I wasn't so stressed all the time. And now we reach the hidden engine behind parental guilt, the illusion of total control. Good parents often suffer because they believe that if they love deeply enough, respond wisely enough, and try hard enough, they should be able to prevent every wound. But you can't. You cannot pre-remove every struggle from another human life, not even your child's. That doesn't mean your role is small. It means your role is human. Your child will feel left out sometimes. They will misread situations. They will compare themselves. They will get hurt. They will hide feelings. They will test limits. They will disappoint you. You will disappoint them too. That is not evidence that the bond is broken. That is evidence that two human beings are growing in real time. But when you are burnt out, every normal rupture feels catastrophic. A slammed door feels like emotional distance forever. A lie feels like trust is gone. A bad report card feels like you missed something vital. A night of scrolling feels like you've lost them to the screen. A panic attack feels like you should have seen it coming years ago. Burnout turns moments into verdicts. That's what makes it so dangerous. It doesn't just drain your energy. It distorts your interpretation. You stop seeing chapters. You only see scenes. You stop seeing effort. You only see outcomes. You stop seeing context. You only see flaws. And the cruelest part is this: the more conscientious you are, the more vulnerable you become. Because careless parents don't usually spend hours replaying their tone. They don't question every decision. They don't research attachment styles at midnight after a rough morning. They don't sit with the ache of wondering whether their child feels truly safe with them. The parent who feels sick with concern after getting it wrong is not showing a lack of love. They are showing the burden of love. Still, love alone does not protect you from depletion. And a lot of parents are depleted right now in ways they barely admit. They are not just tired. They are emotionally overdrawn. There is a difference. Tired says, I need rest. Emotionally overdrawn says, I have been giving from a place that has been empty for too long. So you become less patient than you want to be, more reactive than you mean to be, less playful, less curious, more controlling, more fragile, more numb. Then the shame starts. You think, my child needs the best version of me, and they keep getting this version. But that thought misses something important. Your child does not need a flawless parent. They need a parent who can return, a parent who repairs, who reflects, who owns their impact without collapsing into self-hatred, who can say, I was too harsh, I was distracted, I missed what you needed. Let's try again. That matters more than parents realize. Because children are not learning that relationships are perfect. They are learning what happens when relationships get strained. Do people run? Do people deny? Do people blame? Do people come back with honesty? That is where trust is built. Not in never getting it wrong. In showing your child that love can survive reality. That truth is powerful because it frees you from an impossible job. You were never meant to perform perfection. You were meant to model repair, steadiness, and courage. And yes, sometimes you will still lose your temper, miss the cue, get defensive, shut down, overreact. But the meaning of those moments is not fixed. One hard moment is not your whole parenthood. One exhausting season is not your child's whole story. 1 year of stress is not the final truth about your family. That matters, especially if you are parenting while carrying your own unresolved pain. Because many parents are not just raising children. They are raising children while trying not to repeat what hurt them. And that is one of the hardest things a person can do. You hear your child speak in a tone that used to get you punished. Your body reacts before your mind does. You feel disrespected, flooded, cornered, powerless, angry, and suddenly you are not just in this kitchen, on this day with this teenager. Part of you is 10 years old again, part of you is defending yourself against a history your child knows nothing about. This is why parenting can feel so intense. It doesn't only activate love, it activates memory, identity, grief, fear, hope, and every unfinished piece of your own childhood. So when good parents say, "I feel like I'm failing," what they often mean is something deeper. I can't keep doing this at this level of pressure. I don't know how to stay soft when I feel so stretched. I don't know how to guide my child through a world that overwhelms me too. I don't know how to tell the difference between a phase and a warning sign. I don't know how to protect them without controlling them. I don't know how to be enough when enough keeps moving. That last part is the killer. Enough keeps moving. Years ago, being a caring parent meant food, safety, guidance, love, and presence. Now it feels like you are supposed to be a therapist, educator, nutritionist, tech expert, behavior analyst, future planner, emotional translator, and crisis prevention team. No wonder so many parents feel like they are one dropped ball away from disaster. But the real danger is not that you are dropping balls, it's that you may be forgetting which ones are glass and which ones are plastic. Not everything is an emergency. Not every rough week is a red flag. Not every bad mood is a mental health collapse. Not every conflict means disconnection. Not every parenting mistake becomes a lifelong wound. Some things matter enormously. Some things need real attention. But some things only look enormous because fear has taken the microphone. And fear is loud in modern parenting. It tells you to watch everything, track everything, corrects everything, prevent everything. But children do not grow strongest under constant surveillance. They grow strongest in relationships where they feel seen, respected, guided, and emotionally safe enough to be imperfect, just like adults do. And maybe that's the part we forget. Parents need what children need too, a nervous system that isn't under attack all day, room to make mistakes without being crushed by them, connection without performance, rest without guilt, permission to be human. Because when parents are never allowed to be human, they start parenting from survival mode. And survival mode is not where wisdom lives. It's where shortcuts live. Threat lives there. Snap decisions live there. Catastrophic thinking lives there. Shame lives there. That's why one of the most important things a parent can do is stop asking, "How do I become perfect enough that my child never struggles?" And start asking, "How do I become regulated enough that my child is not alone in their struggle?" That question changes everything. Now the goal is not domination. It's connection, not image, presence, not constant success, safe return. You don't have to win every moment. You have to keep building a relationship your child can come back to, even in adolescence, especially in adolescence. Because teenagers often look least lovable when they most need love that doesn't panic. They push, they withdraw, they roll their eyes, they act like your concern is annoying, they speak in fragments. They hide behind, "I'm fine." They seem to choose screens over family, friends over home, distance over warmth. And if you're not careful, you will misread self-protection as rejection. But so often, underneath the attitude is overload. Underneath the shutdown is confusion. Underneath the obsession with the phone is fear of social disappearance. Underneath the indifference is a desperate wish not to be exposed. That doesn't mean there should be no boundaries. It means the behavior is not the whole story, and neither is yours. If you've been impatient lately, that is not the whole story. If you've been numb, distracted, snappy, controlling, or exhausted, that is not the whole story. The whole story includes the mental load you carry, the invisible decisions, the background anxiety, the financial pressure, the sleep debt, the grief you don't talk about, the cultural pressure to be grateful and productive at the same time, the feeling that childhood itself has become more fragile and more expensive to protect. You are not weak for struggling under that. You are having a human response to sustained pressure. And this is where the shame begins to loosen, because shame says, if this is hard for me, something is wrong with me. Truth says, if this is hard for me, maybe I've been carrying too much for too long without enough support. That is a very different story. And it leads to a very different kind of healing. Not the fake healing of becoming endlessly calm and perfectly consistent every second of the day. Real healing, the kind where you notice your limits sooner, the kind where you repair faster, the kind where you stop treating your worst moment like your identity, the kind where you become more honest with your child, not less strong, the kind where your home does not have to feel flawless to feel safe, because safety is not built from polish, it is built from truth with warmth. So if you feel like you're failing, listen carefully. Maybe what you're actually feeling is grief. Grief for the parent you thought you would be. Grief for how hard this became. Grief for the village that isn't there. Grief for how often you have to parent while exhausted. Grief for the fact that loving your child does not remove the fear of losing your way. That grief is real, but it is not the end of the story, because there is something stronger than the feeling of failure. Awareness. The fact that you are reflecting right now means the story is still moving. The fact that you care how your child feels means your heart is still in the room. The fact that you ache over getting it wrong means you have not gone numb to their humanity. That matters more than a perfect morning routine, more than a cleaner house, more than a better answer in the moment, more than the image of being the calm parent all the time. Children do not need a parent who never struggles. They need a parent who keeps choosing connection over ego, who keeps returning to love after stress, who keeps learning, who keeps seeing them even when both of you are tired. So no, the fact that you feel like you're failing does not prove you are failing. Very often it proves you are in the fight. It proves you have not checked out. It proves your conscience is alive. It proves your child matters to you more than your pride does. And in a world that is pulling families in every direction, that kind of love is not small. It is everything. So tonight, if the house is quiet and your mind starts replaying the day, I want you to remember this. Your child does not need your perfection to feel your love. They do not need a parent who never breaks. They need a parent who comes back, a parent who tells the truth, a parent who stays reachable, a parent who keeps trying. And if that is you, then hear this clearly. You are not the parent who stopped caring. You are the parent who is scared because you care so deeply. You are not failing because this feels heavy. It feels heavy because it matters. And sometimes the best parents are the ones who cry in the bathroom, wipe their face, walk back out, and try again with a softer voice. Not because they are weak. Because that is what courage looks like in a family. Quiet, unseen, unphotographed, but real. And maybe that is the truth you needed today. Not that you must do more, not that you must be better, but that your love was never meant to look flawless. It was meant to stay. And if you are still here, still listening, still learning, still returning, then maybe you are not failing at all. Maybe, in the most important ways, you are doing something extraordinary. You are loving a child through a hard world without becoming hard yourself. And that may be one of the greatest successes there is.